than that.
I'm not either.
Okay. So, you guys understand what dodging and burning is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Dodging and burning, we're going to affect different areas of the photo, making some lighter, making some darker. We're going to do this so that we can draw attention for the viewer to certain areas, or highlight or subtract certain information from particular areas. Overall, we're going to be able to adjust the image in particular ways, lightening and
How old is
darkening
this
the
computer?
photograph. Right? It's the same reason that women put on makeup on their face to contour the face, or that guys will grow a beard to make them look like they have stronger jawline and things like that. It's the same type of idea. So playing with light and shadows to contour, shape, and give things a little bit more detail. There are 3 general methods to do this. One of the methods is much more heavy-handed, will be much easier to use. Well, actually, all of these methods will be much easier to use with a tablet. We will start using a tablet next week. Okay? The first method I'm going to show you can be used for almost anything, but it's way more heavy-handed, meaning that you're not going to have a lot of subtlety between your tones. It's either going to lighten or darken stuff. Okay? The other 2 methods that I'm going to show you are going to be more subtle. The way that you use them will be up to you, and which ones you use will be up to you. The first method is mainly used a lot more for compositing. The other 2 methods are used more for portraits and landscapes and things like that. Okay? So the first method, just watch what I do. And unfortunately, this isn't really in a book anywhere, so take notes.
Glenda.
Yeah, we're on Glenda. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create what's called a new layer. And I'm going to fill it with 50% gray. In order to do this, you have to create a new layer this specific way. I think there's a P command, but I can never get it to work, so we're doing it this way. Layer, new, layer. You can do Shift Command in, but layer, new layer.
Has it ever done that?
You need to get to this dialog when you create the new layer. So the new layer dialog that looks like this. Okay? We're going to change the mode of the layer to overlay. And I'll start explaining what these modes of the layers mean soon. Not right now, though. Once you switch the mode to overlay, you can fill this with 50% gray, which is what I want to do. I actually go ahead and give this layer a name while I'm in this dialog, so I'm going to have to rename it anyway. You just call it Dodge and Burn or DB. Either way. And we hit OK. No. All right, let me do it again. Yeah, no fun. All right, so layer, new, layer. Go ahead and name it Dodge and Burn, DB, whatever you want to name it so that you know it's a Dodge and Burn layer. We're going to change the mode to overlay. Once you do that, under overlay becomes fill with 50% gray. Fill with overlay neutral color 50% gray. Just check that. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else. Yeah, just. Anybody got questions on that point? Then we hit OK. Now, we've got to check out something real quick, just so we understand what's going on. We're going to use a brush to dodge and burn. So if we collect our brush tool, remember that your open and closed brackets will make your brush bigger or smaller. But let's take a look up here at this little brush menu real quick.
You said the open and closed brackets.
Will make your brush bigger or smaller.
It's the
Above a return.
Next to the key.
Yeah, next to the brackets next to the P. And your tablets will have an option where you can make your brush bigger or smaller on one of the hotkey buttons. Okay? So let's look up here at the little brush menu. We don't want a hard brush. Let me just show you real quick what this stuff looks like. Don't just, don't worry about it. I'm gonna. Alright, let me just show you the difference between our brushes real quick. Okay, I've got black paint,
I downloaded the latest version.
and I got my hardness all the way down to 0.
Launched a couple days ago.
That, you see
And
the
I installed it
edges
and I calibrated one.
on this guy?
And then your screen went.
See how it's kind of blurry around the edges?
I did restart.
So that's a soft brush. If I turn the hardness all the way up, that's a hard brush. So, you guys, you see the difference? Whenever we're doing dodging and burning, we want a soft brush, 0% hardness. People may play with the brushes while you're, on different machines. You may just want to check this before you start doing any brushing, okay? So that's when you select the brush, that's going to be up here. The other thing that can happen is you can get a weird, funky brush shape, like that, right? We don't want that. We want a circular, soft brush, which is typically the very first thing in Photoshop. Hardness is down, and then I can adjust the size however I want. Cool? All right, so now back. So we've made our neutral gray layer. It's filled with 50% gray. Damn it, there was other things I needed to show you. Go back. All right, a couple other things about our brushes. We have two other little controls here, opacity and flow. Opacity you want to think about as the strength of the paint that's coming out. So at 100%, the paint comes out all at once. Does that make sense? At 50%, or thereabout on the opacity, one click and one pass, it comes out 50%. So I go lower. That's the strength of the paint that's coming out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
On the opposite end, flow, think about flow as a spray paint can. At 100% flow, whenever we push the nozzle of the spray paint can, it comes out 100%, immediately. As we turn that flow down, it's only going to come out at a 50% rate. So if I click, I'll only get 50%. But if I keep holding and swirling around, I'm going to build it up to 100%. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I'm down here at 20% or 10%, I only get 10% at one pass, but as I go back over it, I'm slowly going to get up to 100%. Whereas if our opacity is at 50%, if I just click and go over it, it's just always going to put out 33% until I let go and then click again. Now that's 60%. I click and let go and then click again. Now we're at close to 100%. Is that making sense? So we have two controls here, opacity and flow. Opacity is the amount all at once. Flow is the rate at which it comes out. So now back into Blender. In order to dodge and burn with this layer, we're going to use black and white. And we're going to use a low opacity, low flow brush. And when I say low opacity, I mean like 2%. And when I say low flow, I mean like 20%. The idea here, and you guys might remember this from Lightroom, we don't want this to be apparent. We want this to look as subtle as possible. My opacity is at like 3%, and that might be too strong. And my flow is down to like 20%. And again, that might be too strong. The way that dodging and burning works with this layer, black burns, white dodges. That's it. So in order to burn certain areas, if I wanted to make something darker, I'm gonna make sure that I have black paint selected. I am actually on, my layer is selected, and then I just paint. Now this is coming out pretty slow. So I might just crank it up just so you guys can see what's happening. Make her darker for whatever reason, I don't know why. Then I can hit X to switch back and forth between black and white. White will brighten things.
Did you say we did? Alright. Okay.
Yep. So just before or after, just so you can kind of see that things happen, right? If I screwed up, I don't like what I did, just delete and start over. Yep.
Why am I, it actually doesn't on my phone, it's just like,
Hit caps lock. Caps lock. All right, so go ahead and play with this real quick. So create your neutral fill layer.
Lighten.
So layer, new, layer. Change the mode to overlay. Fill it with 50% gray. And rename it DB. Using white to lighten up areas and black to darken areas. Go ahead and dodge and burn this photo as you see fit. So lighten up light areas, darken dark areas, etc. Do what you want. Use black and white to make sure that you are. If your paint is off from black and white, jolly. If your paint is off from black and white, close that. All you gotta do is this thing right behind it, right behind your color palettes here, right here, this little thing. Just click that, and it switches your palettes back to black and white. Because that'll happen, some people will be playing with Photoshop and change the colors and whatnot, and that'll happen. You want things to be, whoops, you want things to be, as good as you can, so.
What, switch it?
Yep.
Do what?
Oh, good question. Never use the dodge and burn tools in Photoshop. They directly affect the pixels. Yep. And so if you screw up, you screw up. And you kind of have to start all over.
Go back in your history palette.
This is non-destructive. If you use the dodge and burn tools, they're destructive. They will directly change and affect the pixels. You don't want to do that. When you start getting into like crazy compositing, like you're making fake robots in Photoshop, yeah, okay, you're probably using the dodge and burn tools there, but for photography, we don't use them.
I missed something.
I normally like make a layer, and then one for dodge, and then make another one for burn.
That's what I do.
That's that you
And it
get.
messes up the pixels.
It depends on how you're doing it. If you're copying the layers,
I make each, like I copy the layer, and I make each one like one dodge layer.
but if they're going on top of each other, then you're overwriting stuff.
Well, it's on white right now.
Don't,
So you
it's
can
not,
lighten it
that way's not
with your brush.
bad, but
You suggest.
yeah, and what we're about to do will be pretty similar to what you're saying. We'll just use levels and curves instead of copying the layer.
See the difference?
So it's a little different. There's a bunch of different ways to dodge and burn, but
It's supposed to be not.
don't use the dodge and burn tools.
I just never seen this one.
Yeah. What's that? Yeah, you pretty much, that's exactly what you're doing. You're making it easier on yourself if you screw